What's going on YouTube? This is Ribo at the Fake Bench again, and today I have another cut or carry knife review. This time looking at the Kizer Guru. So this is a knife that was popular a little while ago, maybe a couple years ago, and as is often the case, I picked one up on the used market really just for review. And this one took a little while to get to me, and that's because the color of the Guru by default is very similar to the Spidey Chef here. It's just kind of this dull gray raw titanium color. And so I sent this to my buddy Josh, and I'll put a link down to his stuff below. But I sent it down to him to do some anodizing. And I have to say that slowly because I always mispronounce it on camera. But I wanted to do some ano work on this, and he did a phenomenal job. This is kind of this steel blue, not cobalt, but this, not ice blue, I don't know what you'd call this. But he did some nice detailing where he did this blue color, and then inside of each of these cutouts on that bevel, he did a lighter blue, which matches the clip here. And the clip is just an excellent color. That would make a really cool color knife as well. Maybe hard to pick up in this light in here, but the clip color here matches the detailing inside of these cutouts here, which is a really, really nice detail. And I thought the knife turned out fantastic, much, much better than it was before. There are some knives like the Spidey Chef that I think that color works and I like it, or the Sabenza or something. This one I thought looked really terrible with the dull gray, but man, I think that really pops. It's a little bit hard to pick up on camera, but he does some excellent work. He actually, I'll show another knife that he did in a second, but definitely check him out. I'll put a link down below. He's very, very reasonable and can do a lot of really, really cool stuff. So check that out. But yeah, so the Guru is here. I've been using a little bit, and so I have some thoughts. Let me go ahead and do a size comparison, and as promised, here's another knife that Josh did for me. This is my Laconico Keen, Mass Drop Keen. This is kind of in that teal color that I talked about, really cool. You can see just the anodization is really, really cool in general, and it's amazing that you can get a color variation like this. I'll go ahead and put the Spidey Chef up next to it. So you can see it's not a huge knife, not small either. I'm gonna guess it's bigger than the Sabenza. Yeah, bigger than the small Sabenza. But you can see kind of in that sweet spot there. So I think it's a good usable size. Not too big, not too small. It seems like maybe a little bit handle heavy in terms of the size, but there you go. All right, so things that I like and dislike about the Kizer Guru. Things that I like. First of all, I really like the blade shape. So this is kind of this, I tend to probably overuse the word sheep's foot, but sheep's footy blade. It to me is a lot like a poor man's Nyala. A poor man's Insingo blade, which I have on the Nyala and I have on the large Sabenza here. But you can see that there are some similarities between these two blade shapes. And so it's not exactly alike, but it is pretty reminiscent of an Insingo blade. And that's probably the thing that kind of drew me to the Guru here. I like these types of blades anyway. But that's what it reminds me of, and I think that overall it's a very, very practical blade shape. Especially for everyday carry tasks that you're using this for, it's a good piercing blade. It's going to slice pretty well, and so I really like that. So the blade is definitely really, really good. I believe this is an S30V. Let me see. Oh, I'm sorry, S35VN. So solid steel, made popular by Chris Reeve. But good steel, particularly for the price point. I picked this up at an insanely good price, but I think you can get these well under $100. Other things that I like, so I think the ergonomics are very, very good. This is a knife that's probably made to be choked up on. It's got this forward finger choil. Feels fine back here too. It actually feels quite comfortable because of the way that they have this cutout back here on the handle, or this slant right here. So it feels fine. It doesn't necessarily feel like I'm holding it too far back, but I do find myself kind of sneaking up here. I guess it depends really on what you're going to do. If you're going to be slicing, you're probably not going to be doing this. Like if you're going to be cutting food, because your finger's going to be in the way. But in general, when I'm doing box cutting and that kind of stuff, I find it to be a very comfortable knife. I mean, this position here, this kind of pinch grip, is what I actually end up doing quite a bit with this knife, and I find that fairly comfortable. So I think the ergonomics on a fairly efficient, space efficient knife, I think are quite good. Other things that I like about the knife, obviously titanium I'm a big fan of, so I like that it's a titanium frame lock. I think the lock bar here is fairly accessible. It doesn't necessarily look like it. Like it looks like you have limited access there, but I have not had any problems. I think the lock bar is easy to move over. It's got the stop in there to prevent over travel. And so, yeah, I think that works quite well. So no issues there. I think the lockup is very, very nice. I actually really like the clip. I've been pleasantly surprised with the clip. You have this kind of milled titanium look. I like the way that it looks. I don't know that it necessarily fits the knife style, but it's boring enough to where I think it works. But more than that, I like this design here. One of the little details that I like about this, and if you compare it to something like this, on a clip like this, you have this long, clip here, and you have a little bit wider part where it connects here. I do like how thin the connection is here because you have side-by-side screws. Little detail, doesn't really matter functionally at all. But I've found that the spring tension on this is just right. Goes in and out of the pocket just fine, no issues. Big fan. So it works, and I think it looks pretty nice. Plus, I love that ice blue color. Other things that I like about the knife. Just generally aesthetically, I think it's pretty cool. I'm not usually one for the cutouts on knives like this. I could have done without the 3 here or without the 2 here. It's kind of random to me, but I don't think it looks bad. It's a little bit different, takes some of the weight down. I don't know, kind of funky. Don't love it, don't hate it. It kind of is what it is. But I guess it's nice to see something that's a little bit different. The action, I'm a fan of the action. So this reminds me, and I should have pulled it out. I don't think I have it accessible. Let me see. Oh, I do have it accessible. In my house, extra knives are always within reach. So it reminds me of the mini sheepdog. In terms of the action, very smooth, maybe requires a bit more wrist than you might expect, but I've had pretty good luck. I mean, it's a tad sluggish, it's not flying out, but I don't mind it at all. I think that the action is glassy smooth, very reminiscent of my only other Kizer, which would make a lot of sense. And I think that the action is quite good. The mini sheepdog here, as I'm playing with it, has a much better action, but I don't think the Guru is bad by any means. Still fairly reliable. I will say, as I'm playing between these two, the lock bar access on this is far superior. This is still one of the things that drives me nuts about the mini sheepdog. So the action I think is pretty good, and the flipper tab is excellent. That right there is what you want on a flipper tab. Like the looks or not, that's the jimping that you want on a flipper tab. Also something that's missing on the mini sheepdog. So those are the things that I like about this knife. Now let's go into the things that I dislike, and there's not a ton. I would say the knife is a little bit awkwardly sized. I think that it still works, but it looks a little bit snub-nosy. I'm trying to think. There's some whale word that I would call this if I had to name this knife. I don't know. It looks a little bit stumpy. But I think it works. I don't have any issues practically. It just the proportions look off a little bit to me, but that's really not a big deal. I mentioned before the holes I can kind of take or leave. They are what they are, but that's kind of what it is. Other things that I dislike, that's probably about it. This knife isn't super exciting, but I think it's a very solid knife. When I got it, I was pleasantly surprised. The quality seems up there. in my opinion. The knife is fairly comfortable to use. It feels like I'm getting a budget Insingo blade, which is kind of cool. I guess I'm not a huge fan. I think that the stock is maybe a little bit too thick. There's probably no need for stock this thick. It tapers down nicely. I don't have any practical issues with it, but maybe a little bit beefy. But all in all, it's a solid knife. I don't really have any major detractors. I think it's pretty cool. It's a knife that kind of flew under the radar for me, but I'm glad that I got to check it out. In terms of budget values, not something I'm starting to talk a little bit more and more about. I've kind of traditionally stayed away. But I think on the used market particularly, this is a good budget option. I say budget for titanium flippers. I paid well under $100 for this. I think you can pick them up for easily under $100. Have Josh do some ano work on it, and you've got a nice looking knife here for about $100. And so all in all, I think it's a good value in terms of titanium frame locks. You're getting S35 VN, you're getting, titanium frame lock with the over travel stop, et cetera, et cetera. Again, as I'm looking at it more and more, the holes, these two and these two particularly kind of bug me. But if you like that look, I think that this is a very solid knife. Cut or carry for me, I think this will be a cut. I'm sorry. I think this will be a carry. I'm kind of right on the borderline. When I'm thinking about this, like, is this going to be a long-term knife for me? It's probably not, just because I have knives come and go all the time just for review. And I like to check different things out. But I would carry this knife 100%. This would be a great daily carry. This definitely is not just an art knife. It's not just a niche knife. I think that this is a very practical carry option for a lot of people. And so I would call this a carry. Maybe close to the fence, but just a nudge over into the carry option. This is a cool knife. This is something that really surprised me when I actually got to take a look at it. I was expecting there to be some issues, but honestly, as much as people complain about them, I've had an overall very positive positive experience with Kizer. The three knives I think that I've tried out from Kizer I've really enjoyed. I'd like to try some of their budget stuff, but this is another one that I really like. I like the looks of it. I like how it works. So overall for me, I think this is a carry. So that should about do it. I hope you've enjoyed this review, and I'll see you next time.